Hear now what followed. The dying Dasaratha went on. When I saw the young ascetic die by my hand, I stood lost, not knowing what to do. At last, I resolved to do as he had bidden me. I cleaned his fallen pitcher, filled it with fresh water, and set out along the footpath he had shown me. I came to their humble cottage, and there sat the old couple, waiting for their son. They were like two birds with broken wings, shriveled, unmoving, and both of them blind. They spoke softly to each other, wondering why their boy was so long in returning with the water from the stream. Terror filled me as I drew near. Hearing my footsteps, the old man murmured, "Why so long, my son? Quickly, give me water. Your mother too is thirsty. Were you lingering in play by the stream? Why are you silent? Even if we have offended you, do not take it to heart. You are our only prop," the old man said tenderly. "We have lost our sight, and you are our eyes. You are more than life to us. Why are you still silent? Are you angry with us?" Each loving word was a knife in my heart, for I trembled with the terrible thing I had come to tell. Gathering my courage, I spoke. "O Holy One, I am Dasaratha, a Kshatriya, not your son. Driven by the karma of my past, I have committed a dreadful sin, and I stand before you in utter shame." The old man's face turned toward me, bewildered and afraid, as I forced myself to tell the whole terrible truth. I told them how I had gone to the river for sport, how I had loosed my arrow at a sound I took for an elephant, and how it had struck their son as he filled his pitcher. "Without intending it," I said, "I have fatally wounded your beloved boy. I throw myself upon your mercy and await your judgment." The old couple was struck dumb with grief. Tears streamed from their sightless eyes. Then the father spoke, his voice breaking. "King, your sin is great, but it was done in ignorance, and you have come yourself to confess it. Therefore, you shall live. But now, take us both to the place where our son lies. Let us touch our beloved son with our own hands." The old man wept and sent his soul into Yama's keeping. So I lifted the frail, blind pair and carried them through the dark forest to the river bank, where their son lay cold and still upon the ground, my arrows wound in his innocent breast. They knelt beside their son and felt his still body all over with trembling hands. Weeping as they touched the face they could not see, they blessed his departing soul with broken voices. And then, upon the river bank, they built his funeral pyre and made ready to give his body to the sacred fire. But the grief of the old couple was too great to survive. Having sent their son's soul on its way, they turned to me with faces of terrible sorrow. And before they gave themselves to the flames, the old father spoke the words that would one day become my doom, uttered from the depths of unbearable pain. "This great grief you have brought upon us," the old man said, "you too shall endure in time. You will die of sorrow, parted from your own son." With those fearful words, the aged couple stepped into the flames of their son's pyre, and their souls rose up to join the gods. "That curse has pursued me down all the years," said Dasaratha, "and now it has found me. My old crime is killing me at last. What that grieving father spoke in his anguish has come true, word for word. I have sent my innocent son to the forest, and, unable to bear it, I now go down to Yama's abode." "How else could such unnatural things have come to pass?" he asked. Why should Rama obey so unjust a command? Why should he insist upon his own exile? It was the curse of that old blind couple. Nothing else. The debt I owed from that dark night has at last been called in full. His voice grew faint. Kausalya, I cannot see you. My sight is gone. Death comes swiftly now. Come nearer. Let me feel you by my side. The old queen pressed close, taking his cold hands in hers, and the king clung to her touch as the shadows gathered thick about his failing eyes. The messengers of Yama are calling me, he whispered. Will Rama come? Shall I see my son once more before I die? But no answer came from the silent night. His breath grew shallow, and his longing for the face of his exiled son went unfulfilled as the last of his strength drained away. Oh, I am dying, he breathed. The oil is all consumed, and my light is going out. Ah, Kausalya, oh Sumitra. With his beloved son's name unanswered on his lips and two faithful queens weeping at his side, the great king's spirit slipped away. Quietly, in the deep of night, Dasaratha breathed his last. So passed Dasaratha, he who had mastered the Vedas and Shastras, the hero of countless battles, the performer of great sacrifices, a king famed through the three worlds, with many friends and no foes. His power had been like Indra's, his wealth like Kuber's, his statecraft like Manu's own. Yet fate had ordained that such a king should exile his best beloved son and die of a broken heart, with none beside him in his last hour but two grieving women, wounded by a sorrow he himself had caused. Thus, even the mightiest of men bowed at last to the unbending decree of destiny, because the king had so often fainted and revived that night. His death went unnoticed at first. Worn out by grief and long watching, the two exhausted queens sunk at last into a heavy sleep in a corner of the chamber, not knowing that their lord already lay beyond all waking. At dawn, the court musicians came, as was their custom, to wake the king with soft instruments and sacred hymns. They played and sang the morning songs outside his chamber, waiting for the familiar signs of their master stirring. But this morning, no sound of waking answered their gentle music. The royal attendants, who tended the king's morning needs, waited and wondered why he slept so late. At last, they made bold to enter the chamber, and there they found the great Dasaratha lying cold and lifeless upon his bed. Horror and grief seized them as the dreadful truth became plain. The terrible news spread swiftly through the palace and filled it with wailing. The widows of the great king cried out like orphaned children, clinging to one another in helpless lamentation. In a single night, Ayodhya had lost both its exiled prince and its beloved king, and grief overwhelmed the royal house. The cry of mourning rose through the corridors and out over the waking city. Servants, ministers, and citizens alike were struck with disbelief that so great and beloved a king could be gone. The palace that had shone with festival not long before was now plunged into deepest darkness and despair. And far away in the forest, Rama knew nothing of his father's death. He walked on through the wilderness with Sita and Lakshman, keeping the vow that had cost so much, unaware that the old king had breathed his last with his son's name upon his lips. Sorrow had claimed the father. Duty still bound the son. Ayodhya now stood without its king. The throne sat empty. Bharat was far away, and the exiled Rama walked the forest paths, Into this darkened hour the kingdom drifted, leaderless and grief-stricken, waiting for someone to return and take up the burden that fate had scattered so cruelly among them all. So ended the last moments of great Dasaratha, undone, at the last, by an arrow loosed in careless youth, and a promise kept at too dear a price. The wheel of karma had turned full circle, and now a grieving kingdom must send for the absent Bharat and face the sorrowful days that lay ahead.